Yes, I moved to London right after A-levels in Poland,
Okay. Oh wow.
and I was studying animation at University of Westminster. So
Yeah.
that was the 3 years there, and then right after I was supposed to take a break. For example, 2-3 years between MA and BA,
Yeah.
work in the industry a bit or figure out what my style actually is.
Sure.
But then the Brexit was announced, and there was this big question, like no one could guarantee that the fees are not going to increase.
Sure.
So me and my friends were just, okay, I guess we have to do MA now before
Yeah.
before everything goes down the hill.
Yeah.
And actually, if we started MA a year later, this year would be a mess.
Really. Yeah. Of course, COVID and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of drama right now at Royal College of Art because it's really not treating students right in this situation.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's you can read all of it online. There's a lot of
Sure. Sure.
a
Sure.
lot of angry people. It's fine.
Sure.
I mean, if you just go to RC Animation
Yeah.
Instagram, then I feel like everyone would be up for anything.
Sure. Hopefully.
So you can just choose the ones you like from there. I think
Yeah.
there's
That's true.
just low
That's true.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to do that. It's
But some people are quite strict about keeping their films private for a year or over a year because of
yeah.
festivals. But
Yes.
for example, like with my with my latest film, Nigel, I actually got offered premiere on Short of the Week, like a week after my film was done, after
Wow.
I sent them. So I knew that it's going to be secure when it comes to like online presence. So I didn't want to wait a year. I just waited like half year.
Yeah. Sure.
So, but most people keep it private. But the festivals don't really care anymore. Live action festivals care, but animation don't really.
Okay.
But if
It,
you aim for like selling your rights, for distribution and stuff like that, then yeah, it matters. But most independent films don't end up like that.
yes. Sure.
So,
Sure. And I suppose because of the internet, I mean that's the other thing actually. It's because of the internet and Vimeo, YouTube, that sort of thing. Um, does that make it harder for what once you've made your film and you do put it out there? Maybe you've entered into a festival, and maybe you haven't won an award, but it's got recognised. Um, does it help having your film available on lots of platforms, or does it actually work against you because it kind of gets lost and um,
I think it's a chance of luck, to be
yeah,
honest, because I even there was a talk from, I think it was one of the main guys from Short of the Week, like a few weeks ago, and he was saying how, especially these times, because of COVID, a lot of works are coming out online and they do get lost. Uh,
yeah,
so, for example, my previous film, Bara, was featured on Vimeo, so I already had a bit of followers from that. So it made easier for my latest film to be more recognized on Vimeo. But for example, to be honest, when it was premiered on Short of the Week, I wasn't getting that many views. It only jumped when I got Vimeo staff pick, and
right,
it's really depressing for me that actually Vimeo staff pick has the monopoly for the views. If you don't get that, you actually don't even get. It's really hard to get featured there, and
right,
if you don't get featured there, you're just lost in the whole flood, of all the animations coming out.
sure,
So it's really, I find it just really depressing, to be honest. Just the constant fight on Instagram or Vimeo. It's all just,
yeah. You need a whole industry
yeah,
behind you to sort
you
of
need the
push
whole
you.
package of everything. Just,
Yeah, well, that's why we want to hopefully help independent filmmakers with another platform that we can sort of take it in turns. Each week we push another filmmaker, another film, another short feature, whatever, or both. An animator, animation, and traditional sort of film. Yeah, I think variety of locations is always good, rather than just one or two that has a monopoly on everything. Um, how did you decide that you wanted to get into animation? Because it's you've got to be quite um, dedicated, do you not, to become an animator? I mean, lots of people can be very, very good illustrators and artists, but what's the bridge between being a creative person and becoming an animator?
So all my life, I wanted to go to the Academy of Fine Arts in Poland, but to be honest, the only way you can actually earn money as an artist is being a graphic designer. And I've never wanted that. I never liked typography or poster designing.
Sure.
Sorry, my dog.
That's okay.
So I had some, for example, some lessons about poster design, and I didn't enjoy that.
Okay.
Because when you apply for Academy of Arts here, you need to take entry exams, and they're really difficult. You have like exams from still life, then still life painted, then live drawing, of a model, and then poster design, and then something else, and then the oral exam. And I think the more I was preparing for those exams, the more I was realizing I don't want to do that.
Sure.
And I think when I was 18, my parents gave me a gift, and they said like, oh, you know, there are those short courses of like Central St. Martin's. They're like weekly courses. You can choose whichever you want. And then I was just staying at my aunt's in London, and I chose animation, and there was this amazing tutor called Sean McGlinchey, and he worked on Space Jam, and he's just an amazing, inspiring person. And she passed away this year because of cancer. So it's, yeah. And so he actually suggested that he saw that I have some kind of like, that I enjoy this and I could be maybe good at it, maybe one day.
Sure. Well, you are very good at it.
So I just decided that I'm going to like put everything on one card, and I'm going to apply for animation in London, because I didn't really want to stay in Poland. It felt too claustrophobic for me.
Sure.
There's a lot of artistic cliques in a way that, So I applied there, I got in, and yeah, making films is amazing. So
That's
pretty rewarding.
so you have to enjoy obviously what you do. You have to enjoy the process.
Yeah, I think with animation it's a bit like you're working, every day. For example, during my last film, it was drawn on paper. I mean, first it was drawn digitally, and then printed out, and then everything was traced on Lightbox with pencils and crayons, and then scanned in, composited. So, for example, I was working, each day like 10 hours. So, for example, once a week I had this moment when I was, oh my god, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It's great. And then the rest of the week was just wanting to die because you're so tired. But you have those glimpses of just, and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Or like when you see that the shot is working, and then you can see the emotions you wanted to convey through the little stupid bird. Yeah, that's when you realize, oh, that's why I love it more than an illustration. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you're just thinking, right now when I'm drawing this frame for the 50th time, there are people out there who draw this just once. Wow.
Yeah. That's too easy.
No, we're going to spend hours making one shot. It's fine. It's cool. So yeah, and it's just the ability of telling stories, and for me it was much more rewarding that you can actually mix all the mediums together. And I also like working with the sound and music. So for example, for Bara, I experimented with recording mandolin and waterphone and synthesizer.
Wow.
And it was just really fun because for that film I actually had a bit of time to work on that. With my previous one, I couldn't. I had to get a sound designer. But it's just, I don't think any medium can compare much to animation, because it's just,
it's completely different, isn't it? It's
yeah.
I guess that's why it's quite expensive, isn't it? If people wanted to commission you to do an animation for them, be it an advert or something else.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking when many musicians contact me for music videos, and we talk about the style and we have those ideas and it's amazing, and then they just ask me, so how much? I'm like, yeah, this and that, and they're like, oh, I thought it's gonna be like maybe 100 quids. I'm like, no,
It can't be, can it? Because
sorry, no. That's the thing, that it's
Oh.
also just, yeah, especially frame by frame. It's right now I'm really lucky that I managed to get an amazing project. I'm going to work on a 10 minutes long short film about memories of an Italian partisan,
Okay.
because it was crowdfunded and the director found me, I think, through Nigel.
Right.
So we signed everything, and I'm actually working on it like already. So it will be done by April 2021 for the anniversary of
course.
victory in Italy. Yeah, but
Where will that be seen? Where will that go?
I think it will be, I don't know yet, but I'm posting some work in progress on my Instagram. But I think I'm going to try to pitch it, to Netflix, to Italian Netflix and other platforms or TV. So I'm not sure yet how it will be. It will be for sure distributed to festivals, but we will wait to see how the copyrights work when we actually want to screen it anywhere else. But it's really exciting because I actually have, it will pay my rent for months.
Yeah.
Because that's all the animator needs. Someone just needs to pay my rent and I can work. That's all. Because I just need my computer, and for this I have, today I bought like 10 pads of paper. Because there's a lot of paper needed for that. But
would you say,
Hmm?
apart from the time element obviously goes into making an animation, be it short or obviously a feature is more time, what would you say is easier, making a conventional film in terms of filming something, or an animation in terms of, yes, it's time wise, but you don't need the crew and multiple actors? What, from your experience, I don't know if you've got experience in actually making film, actual interactions and filming a film, but what would you say is easier for you to do, assuming that you've got money, you can pay your rent? If you're just on your own with loads of paper and pencil, what's more, I'd say, maybe not easier, but what's more creative, and what could you produce that's different from, say, like a whole crew, if that makes sense?
I think the first thing is that animators have, in most cases, much more different personalities than live action directors. So I think you can see that we are just spending most of the time alone by the computer. Why, when I go to the film festivals with live action directors, are outgoing, and you can see they can direct people. But with animation, the fact is that the possibility that you can do whatever you want is actually really terrifying, because you assume that you can just imagine whatever you want, whatever the shot, whatever the angle, but then it's really limited by your own abilities and your own skills. So it's we don't have to struggle, with renting proper cameras or getting. I don't even know how live action works. It's just so many people, and everyone is expensive.
Yes. Camera people, the actors, the location.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the logistics of the transport and the catering and
Yes, yeah, it adds up really quick.
But I think with animation, what's scary is that sometimes you get way too stuck in your own head.
Yeah.
When it's just you, and it's really hard to get a fresh look, even when you're doing even just storyboards. Once you get locked on one idea, it's really hard to change your mind to something else. I think it requires a lot of practice to, just knock out completely new idea visually. I think that's I think actually when someone says, "Oh, you can do whatever you want," that's actually when you're like, "Oh no, what does it
where do you start?"
mean?"
Yes, yeah.
There are so many options you can do. Like you can do paint animation, you can do cutout, you can do digital, you can do After Effects, you can just do frame by frame, and it's there are so many options and so many variables. But once you feel that something is flowing well, that's I think the best part. For example, for the Italian war film I'm working on, I was provided with an animatic and storyboards. So the pre-production stages, that's actually one of the hardest parts. Because, for example, for me it was quite confusing. Like, where are the Germans coming from? Where are they shooting? Which pile of hay?
Yeah.
Well, to the west? Where's the west?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just so happy I can just actually focus on, bringing the storyboards to life. Because that's actually what I enjoy the most in animation, when you just actually, you have your storyboards done, you know what's happening, you know it's working. Now it's just the joy of animation. It's great. That's the best part.
Yeah, you just get on and do it.
I know that sometimes I saw some short films of animators that I know, and I feel like you can see that they are animators because the aesthetic attitude is a bit different. It's a bit more like the ones I saw, they're like more Wes Anderson-y, because most of us are, really perfectionist. And you can see it in the filmmaking, like, no, this thing should be here, exactly. Like, can you move it 5 centimeters to the left? You can see that just transferring into filmmaking. But I would like to see a live action director trying to do animation. It
Yeah.
requires a completely different way of thinking. Even like the director I'm working with right now, he's an editor, and yeah, I wonder how he's going to react to some of the animation ideas I have for the film. But he really wants to. The thing about animation and live action is that animation, I feel like it's working well when you can see that there is a reason it's animated and not live action.
Yeah.
If you see a short film, like for example some films from the French school Gobelin, they're gorgeous, but anytime I watch most of them, you don't see a reason why they are actually animated. It could be easily done with actors.
Right, sure.
I think that's the biggest difference for me between animation and live action, that you need something in animation. You can see why is it animated.
Yeah, something you can't do in a live action
Yeah.
scenario. Where do you see the future of animation going in the next, say, 5 years? Is there sort of people coming through that you're aware of that are doing really interesting things? Do you think that in 5, 6 years' time you're going to see a different form of animation? Is there different sort of themes going around?
I mean, I hope that independent animations will be back at some point. Because there are some platforms like Netflix or Adult Swim that, they have possibilities to actually publish independent animation. But the problem is that we are expensive because of how much time it takes.
Yeah.
That's the issue. The music videos, I think, are coming back slowly.
Interesting.
But yeah, again, like from what I experience, or like from what I hear from people, actually the bigger the artist is, the musician, the less they pay, because they know someone is going to do it for free just for for exposure.
I bet.
So it's really hard to see right now. But even right now during the COVID, actually many projects are cancelled. But also many people are right now reaching out to animators because we don't need a crew. We are not this restricted by
Yes, of course.
travels or anything. We can just actually sit here and just make a music video. So I think that also depends, and hopefully, like, there were some articles that were saying that actually, for example, the London animation studio Blue Zoo is doing so well during pandemic because we can just do adverts like that.
Sure, you can work from home.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it will, this whole catastrophe will actually work out well for animation.
Yeah, of course.
I think the biggest issue is that it's expensive. So that's the issue. Or like I know that there's so many cases of animators being paid lower than minimum wage,
Yeah, which is crazy, isn't it?
which is really because
But again, it's like if I was to come to you and commission you and say, right, I want to make a 20-minute film and it's an animation, very ballpark figure, what would that cost? Because to make a 20-minute film, a short film with live action, that's still, as we've kind of already said, all the people you need and have to pay, it's still 20, 30,000 pounds without doing anything too crazy.
yeah.
So what would a 20-minute animation really realistically cost if it was just you doing
I
it and you
try
had
to stick around £1,000 per minute,
Hmm.
which is still not that much based on how much time I actually spend on
Yeah,
making
exactly.
it. But that's actually you can pay your rent without killing yourself, working so
Yeah,
much. Because if it's more than that, like more minutes, then you actually need to start paying also your assistants, and it's kind of
yeah,
it's losing the point of it. Like right now, I'm assisting on a music video, and like it's not much money. The music video is long, and he also needs an assistant, so it ends up in a way of being just for exposure. I don't,
sure.
it's not very. But for example, with live action, is that if you want to make a clip, you know, 30 seconds longer, you can. It doesn't cost you more. For us, it's like weeks of work to add
Yes,
an
of
extra
course.
30 seconds. So that's the thing that if when I go to festivals with live action animation, there can be, a bad short film in live action that's like 15 minutes long. With animation, if you make a 15 minutes long, it's much harder, I think, because yeah, it doesn't change much. I think if you make 10 minutes short or 15 minutes short, live action one,
Hmm.
you have to wait it for if it's bad. But with animation, it's such a massive commitment. If you want to make a 15 minutes film,
Yes, yes, sure.
most animations are like 3, 5 minutes to 9. So if some film is bad, you're like, oh, it's going to end in like 3 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah, true, true. That's very true. Do you want to talk about one or several of your films, your latest animations, and what they're about, how you came up with the idea and worked on them?
Yeah. So my latest film, Nigel, is based on a story of a lonely gannet that fell in love with a concrete statue, and it happened in New Zealand. And I read a lot of weird stuff online, mostly weird animal stories, like for example the famous story of Thomas the Goose, who became a blind LGBT icon.
Okay.
Yeah, he lived with a black swan called Henry for I think 15 years or something like that. And then a lady black swan came called Henrietta, and she like paired up with Henry, and Thomas the goose, who's just a goose. He didn't leave them; he stayed with them, and he helped them raise their like 70, swan babies, and he was teaching them how to fly.
Oh wow.
So they lived in a love triangle actually for like 11 years, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then Henry died. Henrietta flew away with another swan,
Ah,
and Thomas managed to have his own family, and then his babies were stolen by a goose called George. And then Thomas became blind, and he spent his last years in a bird sanctuary, and then he was buried next to Henry. So
wow.
yeah, so that was those stories, and he was famous in New Zealand. There were people, observing them with binoculars, like seeing that weird family over there, just a goose and two black swans who, they're like beautiful and elegant, and then there's just a goose just
Yeah,
wandering
yeah.
around with them.
That's an amazing story though.
Yeah,
And
but yeah, for me, I was thinking of maybe making that into a short film for my graduation, but it felt too much like a soap opera. I think
sure,
I
sure, yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
sure if I can make it in few months. That one needs a series or something.
yeah.
So I came across a story about Nigel. I think right after he died, because he was found dead next to the statue in February 2018.
Right.
So the story goes I think in the 70s or 80s, the environmentalists were trying to bring back colonies of gannets to an island that earlier was infested with rats and other invasive predators. So they
Sure.
managed to get rid of them, and to bring back colonies of seabirds. It's like bringing back sea turtles. Like they come back to the place where they hatched. So
Yeah.
if there are no birds, they won't come to the place. So you have to trick them. And it worked before with the puffins, but apparently puffins are much more silly than bannets, because you can trick puffins with just mirrors and statues,
Okay.
and
Right.
they think, oh, there's more of us, yay! But
Sure.
with bannets, it actually took over 40 years. So they put concrete statues and they put solar-powered speakers emitting birds of gannets. And finally, in 2014, one bird came, and he fell in love with one of the statues. There were over 70 statues on the island, and he chose just one. And they called him Nigel, because apparently Nigel is the name for someone without friends in New Zealand.
Okay.
Nigel No Mate, that was his full name.
Right. Right.
And so he was trying to, court the statue. He was cleaning the statue. He was chatting to it. He was building nests every year, hoping that one day they can start a family. That was a statue, so it never happened. And then I think 2 weeks before he died, 3 other birds came, and he still preferred the statue than the company of the real birds.
Wow.
And then he was found, dead next to the statue. And then the internet just blew up with articles about Niger, how Niger is the true form of devoted love, how Niger is teaching us how to love others. And but for me, I think it was a good way to make a film about tolerance
Yeah.
of others, like of behaviors that are not orthodox or decisions that for us seem bizarre. Because the Nigel was happy, most possibly. If he wasn't, he would just go to the statue, go to the real birds. So it's more about how just because someone does something that we don't understand, let's just them do that. It's fine.
Yeah.
Especially in the world, right now where everyone is triggered by everything. And most of the time it's not our business, and let's just people be.
Sure.
If
Sure.
it doesn't harm anyone, why not?
Hmm.
So it was more about that. But it was also about, so in the film there is a walrus who, oh spoiler, he tries to make Nigel normal, and he breaks the statue. And then he realizes that it was a mistake, and he brings the statue back, he puts it back together, and he just lets Nigel be with it. So he also learns from that. So yeah, it's
That's
a,
that's
it's
cool.
a film for Nigel and for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
But
like.
also, it's also about when you're in love with someone, or when you have a crush on someone, because then
Hmm.
it's more, you idealize that person to the point when they stop being the person they actually are.
Yes.
It's also about that, about just blind idealization that maybe Nigel was going through. So that's, and the film was, yeah, as I mentioned before, it was drawn digitally, frame by frame, then printed out and traced with soft pencils and crayons, and then scanned in, composited. So it was a lot of work, but
Yeah. How
it,
long did it take?
hmm?
How long
it's
did that take?
so it was my graduation film. So I started the pre-production in mid-November, maybe,
Okay.
and then mid-June had to be done. So it meant that in January I had to start animating whatever I had to
Hmm.
actually make it on time. So in January, my storyboards were not finished. I had no idea what was going on, for example, in the middle of the film until maybe even beginning of May.
Really? Wow.
I just had to animate whatever I had.
Yeah.
I was making at the same time backgrounds. If I was too tired with backgrounds, I was, coloring. If my brain was dead, I was just, scanning in and doing anything like that. And if my brain just goes for a breakthrough, I
Yeah.
can think about missing scenes.
Sure.
So it was all an insane process, because 9-minute film was a very long one for a graduation film.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was supposed to be 6 minutes, but when you make an animation and you actually realize it needs more time to breathe,
Hmm.
especially if it's hand drawn. It's called boiling, when, for example, the drawing is still, but you make 3 frames of the same drawing.
Right.
So the frame is not still; it's actually like moving subtly, or like it has the illusion of life. But then it means it has to stay on the screen for a bit longer for the eye to process what's going on.
Sure.
And then you keep adding extra 20 seconds, extra 10 seconds, and then you realize, oh, I made a 9-minute film.
But it was
It
necessary.
happened. Actually, when I watch it now, I feel like it should be also like 30 seconds longer, but it's done, it's over, like, it's fine.
Sure.
So, yeah, that film went well because actually there were many websites who were already familiar with the story. And actually, the film was doing quite well on Chinese YouTube. Someone posted it there. And
Okay.
I found it so lovely. Oh, yeah, it also made it to a website called Fairy Today, which wasn't my aim, but
Right. Sure.
fine. But it's really like lovely to see. I think there are like 50 comments on the Chinese YouTube where people trying to figure out what the film is about.
Okay.
So sweet, like it's so nice.
It's all good exposure.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Last question, I suppose. From where you are now, that obviously you're just starting your career in animation and going into to doing lots of amazing stuff in the future. Um, do you have any advice for someone perhaps who's discovered this interview and discovered your animations, and who's thinking, yeah, maybe I'd like to get into animation? What advice would you give to that person?
I think my advice would be, even if you're making animation and you know it's not going well, just don't stop.
Mhm.
Just finish this and then just make new one that will make you feel better. Because
Mm.
I know that when you're making a film or any kind of a clip, like don't even if you just want to play around with animation, don't make a film. Just make little nice clips, little loops that let you enjoy the aesthetic and the movement.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're making a film, because in my BA we had to make 2 films a year, it you can burn out easily
Sure.
because you're stuck in this one thing that has to be finished. It has to have the whole structure and has to work. But I would say like start with something nice, just for yourself,
Mm.
something that, yeah, like let's say you spend like even 2-3 weeks on one loop
Mm.
and you enjoy it, and then you're okay, let's make new one. Just try not to
Yeah.
burn yourself out. But if you want to make a film, try to make it something taken from real life, like stories about small things in life. Actually, like they're quite rare,
Mm. That's
but
very true,
they
actually.
have this like really nice. Don't make one about public transport. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Sure.
So it has been. I know that each story in the world has already been done, but the public transport is over. It's done.
Sure.
That's
It's
it.
not an exciting topic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like I would say like try to keep yourself excited about it.
Mm.
That's what many animators are struggling with. Just I know many people who stopped doing animation after finishing studying.
Mm.
They need like a few years of break because of the pace and the amount of work.
I get that.
Yeah. So I would say just do
Good
something that
advice.
makes you happy. I think.
So again, is there any animator that you follow? Is there any animation that you know is coming out that you're looking forward to? Is there anything sort of on the horizon, both for you might be involved with, or just as a consumer and a fan of film or live action film? Is there anything that someone you know of who you really like their work? Or
Um, if anyone is up for some cool independent animation, I have my Vimeo website, and I have that. You can see my likes, and there's a lot of animations I follow, and like for example, you go to an animation festival, and I really loved, for example, Periferias. It's on short of the week now, but I waited I think 3 or 4 years for it to be released,
right?
and it's finally out, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, I feel like short of the week has a lot of like nice selections because they don't select many films. Because on Vimeo it's really easy to get lost.
Yes. Yeah.
There's so many, but for example, yeah, I would say like can even start on Shopstick because they have the whole spectrum of different animation. They have like animated comedies like by my friend called Laura Jane Hodkin. She makes those kind of animated comedies about drunk girls and about actually complicated anxiety induced minds of girls.
Okay.
And friendships of girls. It's really cool because it's actually like it conveys a lot of our dark emotions actually.
Cool.
You know, after the girly look, there's actually a lot of depth going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of amazing animators coming out. Especially, it's nice to see someone who didn't even study animation, and then you discover their films at animation festivals.
Mm.
But you can also go for like Vimeo staff picks because they choose a lot, but then you can also see which ones have the feelings that you like. For example, I like those that I can see the craftsmanship is, on high standard. For example, for the film I'm making right now, I'm trying to be inspired by this feature film that I really loved. It's called The Girl Without Hands by Sebastian Laudenbach.
Okay.
So it's a feature film. It was hand drawn in ink, but then colored in Photoshop or After Effects maybe. And it's a story based on Brothers Grimm fairy tale of a girl that doesn't have hands. It's really dark because it's Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
But
Sure. Sure.
it's really amazing. And so
Cool.
yeah, there are those.
Yeah.
I like many weird things, so it's not really like I follow one. There's one animator that I really love. His name is Joseph Pierce. He's a British animator, and he made films, for example, Family Portrait or The Pub. And right now he's starting a new film because he got funding from France and UK. So I can't wait for his newest film. So I'm waiting for that. And there's Alice Say. She's a French animator and she made a music video for Mark Lotterman, Happy.
Oh yeah. 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 I know that one.
Yeah. Yes, I tried to work on her new film, but I didn't make the test. I mean, I didn't make the cut, but it's fine.
Next time.
I knew it. Yeah, it's fine.
Sure. Um. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah.
Um. And if anyone wanted to follow you personally on social media, what's the best way to do that? We'll put your links and things on the video, but what would you say is
I think Instagram is the most up to date because I put a lot of work in progress and stuff like that on Instagram stories or posts. Because I try to keep my website more like a portfolio.
yes, yeah,
It's
yeah,
more elegant and clean, but Instagram is just more personal.
sure, cool.
Yeah. And I have all of my films public or on this website. I don't know.
Well, yeah, they will be, they will be. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Okay. Enjoy your weekend.